Today, we're going to hear the gripping story of Sherronna Bishop. She's a makeup artist, a mother of four, a wife, and she lives in Garfield County, Colorado. She had an opinion the FBI didn't like, and they raided her home. You're going to want to hear what she has to say. That is next. Hey, welcome back to the Barry Farah Show. We're really glad you're here with us today. I hope things are going well with you. Today we have Sherronna Bishop. She identifies herself as America's mom because this could have happened to any American mom. So let's get right to it. Sherronna, thanks so much for being with us today. So when did you actually get raided by the FBI? When was that?
It's just been a few short weeks. Tuesday morning, November 16th at 9:30 in the morning.
Wow.
We heard, incredible pounding on our door, and the most unimaginable thing for us regular people, the FBI
This isn't November 16, 2021. It's 2020, right? Or November 16, 2021. This just happened?
This just happened 3 weeks ago.
So this is a full year after the election, and you got raided by the FBI. They pound on your door, and were your kids there?
Yeah, our family was home. I homeschool my kids. And on Tuesday morning, we were doing school, doing our weekly cooking, just doing the things that you do. And my two of my youngest, or I have four children. My two youngest were home, homeschooling. And then my daughter, who is graduated now, was also home.
Wow.
And it was a pretty terrifying experience, I can tell you.
I can't imagine. We're going to get to more of that in just a minute. I want you to fill in some blanks for us. But before we talk about that, you're a makeup artist?
I am. Yes, I am for 8 years now.
Okay. And you're a wife. How long have you guys been married?
We're high school sweethearts. I married my husband right out of high school. We've been married for 23 years now.
Well, and he's obviously a lucky guy.
Well,
that's
he's
fantastic.
Not so lucky right now.
Right. So you met in high school, got married, built a beautiful family. You have four kids, age range again?
Yeah, 8 to 18.
Okay. So just this beautiful American family, and trying to go about your business to make a living and make your contribution and have a good home. So what kind of was happening in your life or your heart to go from makeup artist to part-time volunteer involved in sharing your opinions politically? What was going on?
Well, I'm a mother first. And I mean, that's what I wanted to be when I grew up, was a mom. And my children were in public school for a short amount of time in Mesa County, and I was exposed to things that I weren't aware of was happening. It just began to kind of prick my interest, and I wanted to know why they were doing what they were doing and how things could be better. And
so, like, for example, what was one issue that you had an opinion on that was different than the establishment opinion or the opinion at school?
Yeah. Well, for starters, mental health, the inappropriate relationship between the school district and children when it comes to mental health issues. Those are parents' issues, and the parents need to have the role and responsibility in that. And we actually, what launched my activism, if you will, was my daughter was given a mental health evaluation without my permission and actually against my consent. And at the time, that was still illegal in the state of Colorado. Now, that's not illegal anymore for 12-year-olds and up. But at that time it was. And sure enough, when I picked up my daughter, she got in the car and told me she thought she was depressed. And that's really where I began wondering, what can I do? This is crazy. This is not education. And that was about 5 years ago now. And I just began figuring out policy and trying to understand how to communicate with administrators and who's running this show. Because as a regular parent, I didn't even know the role of the school board. I didn't know who was doing what and where this was all coming down from. So I educated myself very quickly and began asking a lot of questions.
Wow. That's quite a lot of initiative to take on. And that was coming from your mama bear heart, basically, it sounds like. It was basically for the benefit of your children.
That's right. And I think so many parents now, what we're seeing in America at large, with parents being activated, addressing their school boards finally, because those people are elected officials.
Right.
And we have the obligation to express our grievances to them if we're upset about stuff. It's for them to get special passes and have special protections is very strange, especially when they're dealing with our children. The most precious thing that we have as parents is our kids. And so I felt that it's not just me, it's lots of parents now that have awakened to the reality of what they're learning, what they're not learning that they should be learning, and the position that schools are taking that really belongs to the parents, not administrators and not teachers.
So you have these opinions and you make them known to a network in your community. You have some followers. It looks like you get about 1,000 views when you share one of your thoughts or ideas, I guess, before the raid, and maybe more now, I'm guessing.
When we started out actually with America's Mom was 3 years ago, and we would just sit and read legislation. Actually, I would get on Facebook and I would just read the bills. And it was really interesting actually, but I thought, how else? I don't think people actually want to sit and read bills. So I'm just going to read bills. And I got on and read them. And we used to have 150,000 or more views watching me read a bill.
Wow.
And then Facebook censorship came in. So people were interested in knowing what was going on.
But Facebook limited you from 150,000 down to clipping your wings and censoring you out.
Yeah.
Did you make your way over to Rumble, or, I mean, that's a competitor, really not a Facebook, but of YouTube. Did you try that?
I'm getting there, being really busy and not really understanding all of this stuff I'm very regular. I don't have special technical skills. I just thought Facebook's great. I've got an audience on there. We'll just start there and see what happens. We are
150,000 people listening. Do you read a bill?
Read a bill. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Read a bill. Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is, but it shows the hunger that people have. And like you were just asking, what motivated, it was my kids. And then a lot of people stop right there. They'll go and they'll rant, but nothing will come of it. So you have to know the chain of command. You have to know, who am I supposed to be delivering this message to? Who's in charge here? Who's creating these policies? And from there, that's really where I've really expressed my opinions, is those who are creating the policies that are hurting our kids. And that, starts with the state legislature and the governor.
Wow. So before you got censored, you were really killing it and had quite a following. When did the censorship come?
The censorship came with, I specifically can tell you when, it was the Radical Comprehensive Sex Education Bill, House Bill 1032. And I sat there and I read the bill. Wow. And then began to express what other states had already experienced from passing that bill, what it actually meant. And that's really when we were hit with like 70,000 bots flooded our page.
Wow.
We had to shut it down for 48 hours to clear them all out and then regroup again. And it's never been the same since. It was over a radical sexualizing bill that we have implemented that policy in our schools now in Colorado. It's the comprehensive sex education. It is
when
very
did that happen? What was the date of that approximately?
Yeah. It was 2019 and 2020.
So they censored you before they censored Trump. You were an early trailblazer on being censored.
Well, because I'm just regular. There's nothing really special. I'm a mom, and I don't have a political science degree. I just know that when I read something and it's not right, I don't want it. And that's how many Americans feel. They know something's wrong. Right. They may not be able to articulate it, but they know that something's not right. And so when you hear somebody, I'm not trying to talk over people's heads. I'm not trying to sound smart. I want them to understand what is going on. It's not, I don't have any ego anymore. It's over. When they started messing with our kids, I didn't care anymore. I'm not afraid to be a fool for them.
Well, that's impressive. I think your title, America's Mom, is worthy. So now let's get back to the exciting story here. If we were watching a movie, let's get to that part of it. So we're back to not that that's a fun movie for you, but it's an action thriller. So it's early in the morning when they raid, or you're in the middle of your schools. You're in the middle of your school session. Help me understand what happened on the actual raid.
Yeah. We were in the middle of school. We get started about 8 o'clock. So it was 9:30 when we heard pounding on the door. And
Wow.
we have neighborhood kids. So I thought it might be the neighborhood kids. But they would not stop. And right about when I looked around the corner to see who was at the door. They started yelling it was the FBI. Still in my pajamas, because when you
Oh,
homeschool,
my
your
goodness.
life is just very calm. And it's a little easier. And I went in the kitchen where my boys were doing their work and said, let's go get in your rooms. I walked them to their bedroom and said, just stay here. I don't know what's going on. And I really don't have any idea what's going to happen. So just stay here and don't come out for now. At that point, my husband had come up from his office and he met me in our entryway where the front door is. And he just said, it's okay. I was starting to,
Of course.
I'm standing there just thinking, I can't even believe this. I don't even know what to do. I have no idea what this is going to look like under Merrick Garland's DOJ. I've heard so much. I'm very familiar with the October 4th mandate or memo/mandate to make parents domestic terrorists. And I really have no idea what's going to happen. And
so let's go back to they come in.
They didn't just come in.
Did they bust the door down, or did they open the door, or did they wait for you to open it up?
No, it was less than a minute. And my husband was just about to the door to open it. They used a battering ram to bust my door open, broke the door. And the funniest thing about this is the door wasn't even locked. They could have turned the handle. And instead they took a battering ram to my door. My husband was in front of me. They had their guns drawn.
Goodness.
He's a peacemaker. And immediately just started calming the situation down. He was just like, whoa, everything's fine. We were coming to the door, relax. And it's a good thing he did. I had my phone in my hand trying to call our attorney. And because I didn't know what to do. I don't know what my rights are in this moment. You're kind of like going black. You have no idea.
Unbelievable.
What's going to happen. And they grabbed my phone, grabbed my arm, pulled it behind my back and restrained me, put me in handcuffs.
Put you in handcuffs?
Yeah.
Goodness.
And I stood out there.
And then how long were you in handcuffs?
About a good half an hour.
Oh my goodness.
Did
they rifle through your home?
Say that again.
Did they go through your home to get something?
So we stood out there, my husband and I, they had pulled us out to the front through the front door and we waited outside. Our children are still inside. They're not with us. My boys are in their room. My daughter's coming upstairs because she's hearing all this ruckus.
Oh my. And
they proceeded to go through our entire home, saying they were clearing the home and making sure that there was nothing else to be worried about. And they would unhandcuff me once they had done that.
So when they were clearing the home with you in handcuffs, was anybody watching you or guarding you while you're in handcuffs?
Oh yeah. Our chief of police was up there with his officers, which was devastating. I live in a very small community on purpose, and I love this community. I have relationships with law enforcement.
Unbelievable.
This is this type of treatment that you reserve for criminal offenders, for violent offenders, for people who are doing drug and human trafficking, not a mom who speaks out against her school board, and certainly not in this way. I've heard stories now.
Did you have any preparation? Did they warn you? Did they send you a notice in advance? We're going to be coming and asking you some questions.
No.
This was a FBI raid in the middle of the morning to cause as much disruption as possible because they knew you were a homeschooler, maybe? I don't know.
They seemed, I couldn't answer for what they think. I really can't. All I know is when I was out there and I'm looking at them, there was one person that I knew, they're the investigator from Mesa County. And I just kept asking him, what are you doing? Why are you doing this?
And what did they say?
They just said, at that moment, they really didn't say much. They just stared at me, really, didn't really respond. And some of them said, we're just doing our job. That's always a glorious answer that you hear and have heard for decades now of people who are doing things they shouldn't be doing.
Right.
We're just doing our job, Our chief of police, I asked him repeatedly to call our sheriff, and he would not. It's just that you don't know what your rights are. And you realize in that moment, there is nothing you can do. Once they're there at your home, even with your children there, knowing who you are, your community knowing who you are, it doesn't matter. There's nothing you can do.
Did you do anything before the raid where you thought you might be raided by the FBI?
I've been really vocal against abusive school boards,
Okay.
for sure. And when the October 4th mandate came out, we had a discussion about it because we already knew that, or excuse me, we didn't know at that time. That's not true. The mandate came out. We had formed a large parents organization.
Mhm.
We had served a cease and desist letter to our school board. We were very, very active. We had held 2 very large rallies in our area, and they were saying that they were feeling threatened, that they didn't like what we were doing. They didn't think that we should be advocating for our kids as strongly as we were. We know for a fact that our superintendent in my school district here where I live, we know for a fact that she took advantage of that memorandum from the National Education Association to Merrick Garland, and she made that phone call to the FBI reporting our parents. So we knew that had happened. And
Wow.
when she told the parents what she had done, we had that discussion then. And because I just don't know. Biden's America is totally different than the America we were living in 2019 and 2020. So
But
I don't know.
you got raided by the FBI for having a strong opinion about a way that a school board should be run versus the way the school board was being run currently.
That's correct. And I also, there's 2 things we can't talk about. And we can't talk about abusive school boards, and we can't talk about any kind of election irregularities. And I do both of those. I recognize that elections have consequences.
Sure.
And I want to make sure that when we're electing these school board members, that things are going to be done right. And it's very, very important to me.
So you have researched things, and from your perspective, there were some irregularities and maybe some lack of integrity in the elections. And maybe you would say, I'm putting it mildly. And from your perspective, there were some things that needed to be said so that it wouldn't happen again. Is that a fair statement?
I believe so. Yeah.
And you want to reveal as much as you could. And you were doing that previously. That was part of your conversation on Facebook and wherever else you broadcast.
Yep.
And so that's an opinion. It's an
Mhm.
election integrity opinion. You have a different opinion than a lot of Democrats, but you're not alone. There's a lot of other people that have opinions that line up with yours.
Well,
I don't think it's against the law to have
that's
that.
right. And Barry, in 2016, many Democrats had this, they had concerns about irregarities as well.
Right.
So
That's
so
true.
This is
That is true. That's true. They did. That's a good point.
Yes.
Good point. Fair enough. So the FBI raid handcuffs portion lasts about a half hour. Total time they're in the house, about an hour or so.
No, they were there for about 3 hours at my home.
3 hours. That is intense. What did
Yeah.
they take out? What did they remove?
They took my phone immediately. So people have asked, do you have pictures of the event happening? Do you have film? No, they took my phone immediately.
They wanted to know if you had pictures of the actual raid.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder why they were concerned. Why would they be concerned about the raid if it was lawful?
Well, let me tell you something. This is really, really important. Just about a week and a half ago, the district attorney who helped the FBI serve these warrants in partnership with the Attorney General of Colorado, Phil Weiser, put out a joint press statement saying that no force was used, that Clerk Peters was lying, ... at her home. They refused to acknowledge what they did to me. They won't say my name. They won't address at all publicly what I'm accusing the FBI of doing and accusing their office of doing. It's a sin of omission, right? They've put out a statement saying there was no brute force used at Clerk Peters' home. That I'm not talking about her home. I was talking about what happened at my home. But this is a detraction from that so that they don't have to face public opinion, because everybody knows this is out of control. This is not the proper role of law enforcement or the government. And it's devastating to those people all around America who believe that their voice should be protected. I should be able to say what I believe. Yes. And not be worried that the FBI is going to raid my home for doing that. It's incredible.
Absolutely. I mean, that's just what you would think would have been absolutely common sense. Well, let's talk about the FBI for a minute. And if it's okay with you, I'm going to ask you some questions as if I'm an attorney, and I'm not, related to the FBI's mission, what they're supposed to do. And I'd like for you, if you wouldn't mind, just give me your honest answers as if you were under oath. The FBI is the National Security and Law Enforcement Agency. And I'm reading right now, and I'm also reading from their document. The FBI uses and shares intelligence in everything it does. It's the only member of the U.S. intelligence community that has broad authority over criminal and terrorist acts that are on U.S. soil. So the CIA can't come and raid your home, but in theory, if you were a terrorist, the FBI could. They are sworn to protect Americans. They've got to swear that they're going to protect Americans, and they have to stay ahead of national security threats to the homeland. So that's kind of their big picture mission, according to them. The FBI's further mission is to uphold the Constitution and to protect the American people. So that's their mission, according to them. So it doesn't sound terrible based on that. They might be able to get out of hand, but if they just stayed within the bounds of their mission. So here's the questions. Their major priorities are to protect the United States from terrorist attack. Have you ever been engaged in any planning or any efforts to have any kind of a terrorist attack against the United States?
No, I have not. Not ever.
Has that ever been a thought in your mind? Have you ever had a desire to be a terrorist?
No.
So let's do number 2. They need to protect the United States against foreign intelligence, against espionage and cyber operations. Have you ever hacked the Pentagon or any other sensitive area, or hacked anything for that matter, and used your foreign intelligence to create and your spying and your espionage capabilities to harm the United States? Have you ever done that?
No, I haven't. And you asked me if I have a Rumble account. I couldn't figure out how to do it. So no, I don't have the skill set for that, but
I think Rumble is just a competitor to YouTube. And when I was getting censored for saying things like we need to stay to the Constitution and we need to listen to what the Federalist Papers were saying, they were getting really nervous because I was really hurting their feelings. And so YouTube, very sensitive people, those YouTube folks actually censored me. And so we found out about Rumble. And Rumble is basically just a direct competitor. So you can put your YouTube equivalents on Rumble, and though it doesn't have as broad of a reach quite yet, you can build it up slowly, and they don't censor you. So you can say what is on your mind. So let's go to the next account. The next thing that the FBI is supposed to do.
Okay.
The FBI is supposed to protect the United States against cyber-based attacks and high technology crimes, similar to what we just said on the espionage thing, but this just kind of is broader. Any cyber criminal activity in your heart?
No, never. And I think this is kind of what, when we're going down this road, elections are so important. They have serious consequences. And when we're talking about this stuff, to even have the idea, in my mind, to even have the idea that for all the work that I've done and the efforts that I've made in campaigns and even congressional races, the vote is so important to me. So
I'm agreeing with you there, but I just want to keep I'm going to pretend like you're on like the stand, but no, man, I'm going to have to keep on asking you these tough questions because, you're under oath on the stand here. We're asking about things. Yeah. Have you ever had to, have you ever been a political official elected in any post?
No.
Okay. Well, if you were a political official, have you ever desired to be publicly corrupt about it, like paying yourself off and getting bribes? Any public corruption in your history or in your desires?
No, absolutely not.
Have you ever intentionally violated people's civil rights?
No, never.
Have you ever been involved in transnational criminal enterprises?
I don't exactly know what that means, so I'm going to say no.
So that's like being involved in multiple nations' criminal enterprises. So having a criminal network in Colombia or something, and being involved in the drug trade and that type of a thing.
No, absolutely not.
So horrible crimes, but finding out about it in the United States. Have you ever been involved in white collar crime, kind of like Enron and, the types of things you've maybe seen on the, in some of the movies, but have you ever been involved in stealing money from people, insider trading, any big time white collar crime for you? Any
No,
Anything
never.
there?
No, never.
You know how to do white collar crime?
I don't know. I think this is what's so ironic.
This is so silly and ridiculous, but I am attempting to make a point here. I've got one last question for you, ma'am.
Yes.
I'm pretending again here. I'm not an attorney, but I'm pretending like I am, and you're on the stand. Have you ever been involved in any violent crime?
No, never.
So when we think through the things that the FBI is supposed to do, and those are the things they're supposed to do, combat public corruption, combat significant violent crime, combat significant white collar crime, and you're not guilty of any of the things that they're supposed to be involved in. What in the heck is the FBI doing in your home? Using a battering ram to come into your home while you are with your children, homeschooling them in the middle of the morning. Goodness gracious. So let's just say, for argument's sake, that you were wrong. And of course, you can look at my past podcasts and see that we probably agree on just about everything from an opinion standpoint. But let's just pretend you were wrong and that your concerns about election integrity are not correct. And let's just say that your concerns about school boards are not correct. Now, I don't know how they couldn't be, but let's just pretend they weren't. Is it against the law for you to have an opinion, speak out about it, and be wrong?
It is not against the law. In fact, the Constitution protects my right to do that through the First Amendment. And
so here's what I'm seeing happening. I'm seeing the FBI violating their oath. Their oath is to protect the Constitution. You have a constitutional right to free speech. You have a constitutional right to express that any way you wish. You do not have to be right with what you're saying, because the whole argument is that it's wrong. It's not the right information. It might be actually the right information. They just might not want to hear it. But even if it was wrong, you would still have the right to communicate it. The FBI is violating their role, violating their oath. They're the ones that should be in handcuffs. So what I'm encouraging is surveillance. The reason why do you think they first came and grabbed your phone?
They didn't want any record of this that could get out to the public. And I've already asked for those cams, by the way, and those cams will not be released unless if charges are brought. And that's really alarming to me. I will not be able to show. I've already had people try to disparage my credibility because of the press release that was put out by Phil Weiser, the Attorney General, and District Attorney Dan Rubenstein, saying, well, prove what happened, because they say no force was used, ... at someone else's home. So to not be able to have access to those videos is that's not good.
Are you willing, and is your husband willing to allow you to be engaged in a litigation process that would compel those tapes?
Well, first, thankfully, I'm married to a very courageous man, and I'm thankful for that. And secondly, we will do whatever is necessary to protect our family and to protect other Americans who choose to use their voice however they choose and see fit, to make sure this never happens. It does not happen to another person in this country in this way. This is insane.
Are you going to put some surveillance in your home now so that you've got some cover next if this happens again?
We're considering all of those things. And one thing that we didn't talk about that is such a violation, and I know others will understand, they went through my home and they took pictures of every single spot in my home. I don't know if our children were photographed yet. I don't know. We won't know that because they're not releasing the information to us.
Unbelievable.
So they violated everything that is sacred to us in our home. And my children,
they violated two, at least, of the Bill of Rights, at least two, probably three. And this is a search and seizure, which should never have been authorized. Mm-hmm. This is a violation of your freedom of speech rights. This is horrendous. I mean, who in the heck does the FBI think they are? They're supposed to be protecting citizens and upholding the Constitution, not attacking citizens. They really need to be spanked for this. So what I'm recommending is that people there's fairly inexpensive ways for this, but especially you courageous moms who are speaking out now, I'm encouraging you to put some surveillance in the home. There's a way to connect that to a cyber secure network of servers. And they're actually in multiple countries outside the United States. It's kind of like Bitcoin with your video and your surveillance. And so if you had the surveillance of what they did, their battering ram coming through your home, and if you were everything you're saying and they put you in handcuffs and your husband was trying to be polite and courteous as possible, and they were still rifling through all of your goods, but you had surveillance throughout the home, you'd be able to provide that and you would have gained even more public support. Now it's, of course, your testimony plus your husband's testimony and your children's testimony against theirs until we get those body cam videos that show, the footage that shows what they did. So I'm hoping that people will do that, because I'm not sure this is going to stop until they get really spanked. I've done that. I'm encouraging others to do that. And anybody who wants to reach out to us on a private basis, we'll tell you which way we went on how we pulled that off. But just as a practical tool, I'm thinking that surveillance is going to help, because wouldn't it be great if right now the FBI had all that surveillance out there on the internet that they couldn't control? Facebook could try to shut it down, but Rumble wouldn't. And YouTube would try to shut it down, but others probably wouldn't, at least short term. And there are other tools where people can get access to these types of controversial to the big tech companies, but not controversial to the rest of us Americans. We want the FBI to honor their duty. They're supposed to fight the bad guys, not wonderful moms and their husbands with their beautiful children while they're at home. That's absurd. It's against everything we believe in. What's happened personally since the FBI intruded upon you in such a violative way?
Well, we are very engaged with our kids, and they're really pretty amazing. We had stomach aches for a couple of days with the youngers, but what they did for my children in those 3 hours, what they taught them, things I couldn't teach them in 3 years. And this is why we have a constitution, to protect our rights from that type of force. The proper role of government, the proper role of law enforcement. These are discussions we've had with our children forever. And so I think it was shocking for them to see firsthand. They know that their mom is very vocal and very active. And more importantly, no matter what the FBI did, is what we do now, what we as parents do. We are not going to be quiet. We're not going to, safely go into the shadows. We are doubling down, because this cannot happen in America. This isn't Venezuela or China or Cuba. Right. We don't live under a king and a tyrannical government. This government is controlled by we the people. We tell them where they end and where our rights begin. They don't get to transcend those just because they have suspicions or they don't like what I say. So it's really important for my kids to watch us going forward and seeing what's happened since that event. They're going to know and understand why we have to live free and why we can never be silenced and never shut down in spite of what the government attempts to do. So in a lot of ways, I know we'll be grateful that this happened, but it's alarming for now.
Well, you have an amazing family, Sherronna, and I think I speak on behalf of about 300 million of the 327 million Americans out there, at least, that even if they don't agree with you on everything politically, that they would certainly agree that you should be protected in your home. The FBI should not be intruding upon you in your home while you are schooling your children because they disagree with your opinion on a school board member or disagree with your opinion on election irregularity issues. That is absolutely absurd. That is not their charter. That's not what they should do. And they should have their wings clipped, and the people that were involved in that should be fired. It's absolutely wrong. Do you have a GoFundMe account of some sort that people could contribute to litigation where they might want to help support you?
We do have avenues that we're exploring right now, and we also don't know where this is going to go. We don't know. I mean, we have our suspicions, but I think intimidation warrants being on the offensive. And so that's what we intend to do. They can, any of your viewers can go to americasmom.net and look at what we've been doing there and who we are. And they're absolutely welcome to make a donation to the Legal Defense Fund at standwithtina.org. And I just really appreciate you, Barry. Thank you for using your platform to let me share my story. I mean, that's really it. We need to be able to get it out there and so that the public knows. and they can address it. We can't address issues we don't know about. So I appreciate you sharing your platform
You're
with me.
Absolutely welcome. And it's really my honor. What a brave and courageous woman. Well, to the viewers, I just want to encourage you to support Sherronna and to pray for her, to give her encouragement, to send her nice notes and flowers and whatever else you want to do to lift up that family, and to her, what sounds like a manly man, godly husband, and wonderful kids. It sounds like just beautiful family. And so I'm encouraging people to really get behind you, Sherronna, and to do what they can to help and support you to your freedom. God bless you.
Hi, I'm David Farah. Thank you for listening to my dad's podcast, The Barry Farah Show, Culture Shift. Click subscribe now to be sure you don't miss an episode. Share this podcast with your friends on social media and give The Barry Farah Show your 5-star rating. Check out today's show notes below this episode and at thebarryfarahshow.com. This podcast is also available in video format at The Barry Farah Show on YouTube. See you next time.